as I peer out over the darkened landscape from the tallest tower of my ancient castle. The icy wind carries hushed whispers from the village below. They speak my name in fear and trembling, every utterance a testament to the monstrous legend I've become. Once I was Vlad III of Wallachia, a warrior prince, a protector of my people. Now I am known only as Dracula. One would think that after centuries of this existence, the horror of it would lessen. The insatiable thirst would become just another part of life, like breathing, like the beating of a heart. But it's quite the contrary. Every night, the hunger gnaws at my being, an unending reminder of the monstrous pact I made, the human life I surrendered for power and revenge. I remember the night I became this creature, the night when I exchanged my human heart for the immortality of a beast. The old gypsy witch, with her haggard face and knowing eyes, had promised me a chance at vengeance, a means to protect my homeland. But the cost, oh, the cost was far too steep. The first taste of human blood, the pulsating life force of another, was a horrifying revelation. It was not just the physical essence I was consuming, but their memories, their emotions, their very souls. Each victim I claimed was another stain on the remnants of my human conscience, another step away from the man I once was. Over the centuries, I've seen kingdoms rise and fall, civilizations come and go. From the shadows, I've watched humanity evolve, their lives fleeting and precious, their mortality a stark contrast to my cursed existence. I've lived in the shadows, feeding on their fear, their myths, their superstitions. To them, I am the embodiment of their darkest nightmares, the physical manifestation of the evil that lurks in the hearts of men. Then came the fateful night when Jonathan Harker, a naive English solicitor, stepped foot in my castle. He was to assist me in purchasing properties in London, a plan that would give me access to new hunting grounds, fresh blood. But as I watched him from the shadows, I saw not just a means to an end, but a mirror to the past. Harker, with his youthful ambition and love for a woman named Mina, reminded me of the man I once was, the man who loved and dreamt of a peaceful life. Observing him, a horrifying thought gripped me. I was not just a predator feeding on humans. I was a monster, thriving on the destruction of their dreams, their happiness. Yet, it was his beloved Mina who truly shook me. Seeing her face in the locket Harker carried, I was haunted by the ghost of a woman I loved centuries ago. Elisabetta, my wife, who had taken her life when false news of my death reached her. Mina, with her delicate features and piercing eyes, was her doppelganger. The likeness was uncanny. It pierced through the hardened layers of my monstrous heart. A cruel jest played by fate, or perhaps an opportunity for redemption, I did not know. The centuries of loneliness had finally caught up with me, and in Mina, I saw a chance to reclaim a fragment of my lost humanity. I arranged for Harker to be delayed, keeping him ensnared in my castle while I set sail to London. The journey was agonizing, the sea offering no solace to my tormented soul. I was haunted by dreams of Mina, of Elisabetta, of the life that once was and could possibly be. Upon reaching London, I was greeted by the clamor and chaos of the modern world. It was vastly different from the secluded quiet of my castle. But hidden within the noise was a rhythm, a pulse. The pulse of life, of humanity. It was intoxicating. I sought Mina out under the guise of a foreign noble, a count from a distant land. Our meetings were innocent at first, strolls along the park, conversations about life and dreams. Her spirit, her kindness stirred something within me. It was a dangerous game I was playing, a monster getting too close to the light. But Mina, unsuspecting of my true nature, found comfort in my company. To her I was a lonely man, far from home, a man who carried the sadness of centuries in his eyes. Little did she know how close to the truth she was. Then came the fateful night when the hunter in me took over. Mina fell ill, and in a moment of weakness, I visited her. As I stood by her bedside, watching her frail form shivering under the covers, the monster within me roared. The room filled with the tantalizing aroma of her blood, calling out to my hunger. I could have turned away. I should have. But centuries of hunger and desire won over the shred of humanity left in me. I bit into her neck, her warm blood flowing into my mouth. It was a rush of life, of emotions, of memories. Memories of her life, her love for Harker, her dreams. In that moment, I was not just feeding on her blood, but on her life, her love, her humanity. The horror of my action hit me when Mina, now pale and lifeless, opened her eyes. They were no longer filled with the vibrant spirit I had come to know, but a haunted look of a prey caught by the predator. The mirror of my past had shattered, replaced with the reflection of the monster I truly was. With the taste of Mina's blood still fresh in my mouth, I left her to her fate. Would she die, or become a creature of the night like me? That was a torment I was not ready to face. I fled London, returned to my castle, my prison. But the echoes of my actions followed me, haunting me with the dreadful knowledge of what I had done. My castle stood as it always had, an embodiment of my solitude and torment. But now, it was also a reminder of my monstrous nature. And so, here I am, the creature of the night, the prince of darkness, a monster hidden behind the face of a man. My tale is not one of power or immortality, but of horror and damnation. A cautionary tale for those who seek power at the cost of their humanity. As I retreated into the shadows of my castle, Harker escaped and returned to London, discovering the horror I had inflicted upon his beloved. His wrath and fear fueled his determination to end me, the monster that had caused such suffering. He gathered a group of companions, including an old professor, Abraham van Helsing, who had knowledge of my kind. The news of their intent reached me through my network of loyal wolves and bats. I could not ignore the threat. They were coming for me, their hearts filled with vengeance. But their arrival also meant that Mina was coming. She was still alive, but afflicted by my curse, carrying the damning mark of the undead. Meanwhile, the villagers, alerted to my presence once more, began their ancient rituals of protection. They painted crosses on their doors, planted garlic at their windows, and as the sun dipped behind the mountains, the sounds of prayers filled the air. Their fear, usually my triumph, was now my torment. For the first time in centuries, fear crept into my heart. Not the fear of death, but the dread of seeing Mina, of witnessing the devastation my monstrous nature had inflicted upon her. And yet, amidst the fear was a spark of hope, a whisper of redemption. Could I free her from this curse, from the damned existence I had doomed her to? As they approached my castle, I could sense their presence. The scent of Mina's blood was intertwined with the smell of fear and determination from her companions. I stood on my tower, watching as they crossed the treacherous mountain paths, guided by their will to end me. The sight of Mina broke me. She was not the vibrant woman I had met in London, but a ghost of her former self. Her once radiant eyes now held a vacant stare, her skin as pale as the moonlight. It was my doing. I had turned her into this creature, this half-living being who existed in the shadows of life and death. As they breached the gates, I confronted them. Harker's wrath was evident, his body trembling with rage, but it was Van Helsing who stood against me. He was older, but his spirit was unyielding. He brandished a crucifix, the holy symbol gleaming in the flickering torchlight. "Your reign of terror ends tonight, Dracula," he declared, his voice echoing through the stone corridors of my fortress. I could have killed them all, used my supernatural strength to end their mortal lives, but I didn't. I was entranced by Mina, who stood behind them. Our eyes met, and I saw a glimmer of recognition, a spark of the woman she used to be. "Release her, monster!" Harker demanded, brandishing a wooden stake, the tool to end my immortality. Believe me, I wish I could. I found myself whispering, my voice barely audible. For the first time in my immortal life, I felt regret, remorse for my actions. I wished I could take it all back, but time was a luxury even I didn't possess. The ensuing confrontation was more of a battle of wills than physical strength. Van Helsing stepped forward, brandishing the crucifix, his eyes ablaze with the fire of determination. "You have defiled this world for far too long, monster," he thundered, his voice echoing across the castle's stone walls. "Your reign of terror ends tonight." The words struck me harder than any physical blow could. I could see the truth in his eyes, the unshakable belief that his mission was just. And for the first time in centuries, I questioned my existence, my purpose. I was a monster, there was no denying that. I had become the embodiment of the very evil I had once vowed to fight against. Yet it was Mina's gaze that truly moved me. Amidst the fear and horror, there was a glimmer of understanding, a flicker of empathy. Even in her afflicted state, she saw beyond the monster, glimpsed the man I once was. "Van Helsing," I began, my voice echoing in the vast hall. "I am what I am. I cannot undo the horrors I've inflicted, nor can I deny the beast that lurks within me. But know this, I never wished this fate upon Mina." My confession hung in the air, a silent testament to the horror of my existence. The men were taken aback, their determination faltering. It was Mina who broke the silence. "Why then?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Why condemn me to this nightmare? I wish I could offer an answer that would absolve me of my sins," I admitted, my gaze never leaving hers. "But the truth is, I saw in you a chance to reclaim a fragment of my lost humanity. A selfish wish, one that has caused you nothing but pain. For that, I am truly sorry." Silence followed, the tension in the hall palpable. The men exchanged glances, their resolve wavering. But it was Harker who made the next move. With a roar, he lunged at me, stake aimed for my heart. Yet before he could strike, Mina intervened, placing herself between me and her lover. "No, Jonathan," she pleaded, her gaze never leaving mine. "There's been enough violence, enough bloodshed. Mina, move away," Harker demanded, but she stood her ground. "No, he is a monster, but he regrets his actions. Isn't that a sign of the humanity he claims to have lost?" Her words were calm, her resolve firm. In the end, it was Mina who held the power over life and death. It was her decision whether to let Harker drive the stake through my heart or to spare my monstrous life. And in that moment, I saw her for what she truly was. Not a victim, but a beacon of compassion and understanding. Mina's intervention brought a hushed silence to the stone halls of the castle, her words lingering in the air like a haunting melody. Harker's hand, clutching the stake with firm determination, wavered. His gaze shifted between Mina and me, a whirlpool of emotions playing in his eyes. "What are you saying, Mina?" He finally broke the silence, his voice echoing the confusion he felt. "I am saying that killing him won't undo what has been done," Mina responded, her voice carrying a certain level of wisdom and strength that was far beyond her years. "I am the living proof of his monstrous deeds, and if there is a chance for redemption, shouldn't we offer it?" "Mina, you speak of redemption for a beast that has lived for centuries on the blood of the innocent," Van Helsing interjected, his gaze filled with a mix of admiration and disbelief. "Perhaps," Mina acknowledged, "but standing here I see more than just the monster. I see a man who has lived with his monstrous nature, yes, but also a man filled with regret. Isn't it our duty as Christians to offer forgiveness?" Van Helsing and Harker exchanged glances, the weight of Mina's words sinking in. Here was a woman who had every reason to wish me dead. But instead, she was pleading for my life, for my chance at redemption. The very woman who had suffered because of my selfish desires was showing me a level of compassion I had not encountered in centuries. It was humbling, and more importantly, it ignited a spark of hope. With a heavy sigh, Van Helsing lowered the crucifix, stepping back. Harker followed suit, the stake slipping from his hand and clattering on the cold stone floor. It was clear that Mina's words had moved them. In the silence that followed, Mina turned towards me, her gaze steady. "You've been offered a chance, Dracula," she said, her voice echoing through the halls. "A chance for redemption. What you do with it is up to you." I found myself nodding, not trusting my voice. Redemption, a concept I had long forgotten, was now within my grasp. I did not know whether I was capable of such a feat, but for the first time in centuries, I found myself yearning for it. That night marked the beginning of a new chapter in my cursed existence. The story of Dracula, the monster, the beast was known far and wide, instilling fear and horror. But the story of Dracula, the repentant, the redeemed, was just beginning. My journey towards redemption was not easy. It was filled with struggles and torment, each day a battle against the beast within. But Mina's act of compassion had ignited a spark, a desire to seek redemption, to prove that beneath the monster, a man still existed. Van Helsing, despite his initial reservations, took upon himself the task of guiding me through this path. He delved into ancient texts and obscure lore, seeking a way to reverse the curse that had befallen me and Mina. His dedication was admirable, a testament to his unwavering belief in redemption. Meanwhile, Harker was torn. His love for Mina was undeniable, but the sight of his beloved suffering under my curse was a constant reminder of the pain I had inflicted. It was a burden he bore with silent fortitude, his heart filled with a strange mix of anger, resentment, and hope. Mina, however, became my pillar of strength. She held on to the belief that even a creature like me was capable of change. She was the beacon of hope in my dark existence, a constant reminder of the humanity I sought to reclaim. As days turned into weeks and weeks into months, my existence took on a new rhythm. Instead of the endless cycle of hunting and feeding, my days were filled with learning, understanding, and introspection. I began to see the world not through the predatory eyes of a beast, but with the curiosity of a man who had been given a second chance. Van Helsing's relentless research led us to an ancient ritual, a forgotten lore that spoke of a chance to lift the curse of the vampire. The ritual was dangerous and had a high risk of failure, but it was a chance, a glimmer of hope. I was ready to risk it all. The prospect of an eternity of darkness was far more terrifying than any physical pain. And so, with Van Helsing's guidance, we prepared for the ritual. The night of the ritual was one of high tension. Harker stood with Mina, his arm wrapped protectively around her. Van Helsing was in his element, his focus solely on the task at hand. And I was ready to face whatever outcome awaited me. The ritual was long and exhausting, filled with ancient incantations and complex steps. It pushed me to my limits, both physically and mentally. But beneath it all was a sense of hope, a chance at redemption. As the ritual neared its climax, I could feel a change deep within me. A searing pain surged through me, threatening to engulf my very being. But alongside the pain was something else, a sensation long forgotten, warmth. The feeling of life coursing through me, replacing the cold emptiness I had grown accustomed to over the centuries. The sight of the sun's first light peeking over the horizon was the final step of the ritual. I had not seen the sun in centuries, not without the burning agony it brought to my cursed existence. But that dawn, I braced myself for the familiar pain, but it never came. Instead, the warmth of the sunlight washed over me, filling me with a sense of peace I had not felt in a long time. The gasps of surprise from Van Helsing, Harker, and even Mina told me that the transformation was not just internal. As I looked at my reflection in a polished shield Van Helsing had brought for this purpose, I saw a face that was familiar yet foreign. The man staring back at me was no longer the creature of the night, the prince of darkness. He was human, filled with life and warmth. The transformation, however, was just the first step towards my redemption. I had centuries of sins to atone for, countless lives that I had taken to sustain my cursed existence. The path to redemption was long and filled with hardships, but I was ready to face them. I owed that much to Mina, to myself. In the years that followed, I dedicated my life to making amends, to right the wrongs I had committed. I used the vast wealth I had accumulated over the centuries to help those in need, to bring some good into the world. My life had been a source of fear and death for too long. It was time it became a source of hope. Mina, freed from my curse, stood by me through it all. She was my constant, the beacon of light guiding me through my darkest days. Her compassion, her strength, and her unwavering belief in my redemption were the foundations of my new life. The road to redemption was a treacherous one, filled with struggles and setbacks. There were days when the weight of my past sins threatened to pull me back into the darkness. But Mina's hand in mine, her faith in me, kept me moving forward. The tale of Dracula, the monster, had spread far and wide, sowing seeds of fear and horror. But the tale of Dracula, the redeemed, was still being written. It was a tale of hope, of second chances, and most importantly, of redemption. My journey of redemption was not a solitary one. Alongside me were Mina, whose belief in me never wavered; Harker, who learned to set aside his hatred and anger; and Van Helsing, whose wisdom and knowledge guided us all. They stood by me, helping me navigate my new existence, reminding me of my humanity when the shadows of my past threatened to consume me. I learned to live again. I learned to appreciate the simple pleasures of life, the warmth of the sun on my skin, the taste of food, the joy of sleep. These were things I had not known for centuries, replaced by the endless nights and the thirst for blood. Now, they were treasures, reminders of the gift of life. We traveled, leaving the shadow of my castle behind. We ventured to the places I had once terrorized, where the tales of my horror still lingered. There we helped, we healed, we brought hope. Each act of kindness was a step towards redemption, a mark of my transformation. Yet the weight of my past sins was never forgotten. It clung to me like a shroud, a constant reminder of the monster I had been. But instead of letting it pull me back, I used it as a motivator, a reminder of the path I must never tread again. My relationship with Mina evolved. Our bond, once born out of a monstrous desire, transformed into one of mutual respect and understanding. She was my partner, my confidant, my guiding light. Harker, to my surprise, became an ally. His love for Mina and his desire to see her happy helped him overcome his resentment towards me. Together we worked towards a common goal, setting aside our differences for a greater purpose. Van Helsing, the man who had once vowed to end my life, became my mentor. His wisdom and knowledge of the world, both human and supernatural, guided me through my journey. From him, I learned the true meaning of redemption, of the power of forgiveness, and the strength in atonement. As the years passed, the tale of Dracula, the redeemed, spread. It replaced the old stories of horror and fear, sowing seeds of hope. People began to believe in second chances, in the power of change. The monster of their nightmares had become a symbol of redemption,